Today we have the possibility to introduce you to a special guest. He has, as always, worked for innovative companies, trying to develop disruptive technologies. And today is the user experience director at Gemini. Please a great applause for Riccardo Giraldi, sorry.
Thank you. Awesome. Hi, everyone. All right, let's see. Do I need to be up here now? Yeah? Okay, up here. Okay, so super excited to be here. Beautiful place. I'm kind of jealous for all of you. I studied in a not as nice place. I was in Calenzano in Tuscany, and we were in the back of Media World. We literally didn't have a space. We were in the magazzino di Media World. Okay, anyway, okay. So I have a short presentation. I want to leave most of the time for a conversation, for Q&A, but I've also been advised to introduce myself. So I have a few slides to introduce myself, what I'm doing, what I've done, my journey so far, and I'll try to keep it brief. All right, see the slides, let's do it. So, I'm Riccardo Giraldi. I have, let's see, next. How do we do it? Okay, great. Next. All right, so I'll start with a few things about me, and then I'll show you some of the projects that I've done so far, so that then we can have a meaningful conversation. So, a few things about me that you didn't necessarily want to know about. I'm Italian, as you can probably tell. I grew up in Pistoia, a small town in Tuscany. I studied there. I have a mixed background. I'm a self-taught programmer. I have a background in electronics. I studied design, and I have many passions that led me to many different type of jobs and work on many different type of projects. I had the opportunity to live abroad for 18 years. I left as many thinking that I would be outside only for 6 months. It's now been 18 years, and I still think that in 6 months I'll be back. I had the opportunity to live in London, Stockholm, New York, Seattle, San Francisco. I shouldn't read the slide to know where I lived, but I'm looking at the pictures. And through, in this journey, I had the opportunity to work on some very, very interesting projects, anything from websites, application, educational games, variety from Rolex.com to museum installations and whatnot. And more recently, I had the opportunity to work on products, devices, including, for example, a robo-taxi, which is super exciting. So an autonomous vehicle. I'll tell you more about this soon. I love teaching. I had the opportunity to teach in Costa Rica, in India, in Copenhagen, Florence. And I do other things beyond work. I just had a daughter, 4 months old. I'm actually on paternity leave right now. I'm not working, so I'm here just to enjoy. And my dream is actually to come back and open a studio, something similar to H-Farm. And actually, I've been saying that I wanted to do this, and in the meantime, Riccardo has done it. I love this place. This is fantastic. So I think you're all very lucky to be here, and I'm lucky to be here with you. This place is fantastic. Right now, I'm the director of UX at Gemini, at Google, a product that hopefully some of you had the opportunity to try. So it's the ChatGPT version of Google. And we can talk more about this later, but I will leave this mostly for the conversation that we have later. Right now, I'll focus on my journey. I started working in the creative industry in London. I started as a developer, actually, as a programmer. And back in the days, we were building websites. It was the time where Flash was king. You are probably all too young to remember what Flash was, but the web was way more fun back then than what it is right now. It was in the creative industry, so we were doing a lot of shooting, a lot of very interesting type of projects. We're doing games for the Museum of Science of Chicago. We were doing games for Japanese publishers. A lot of experimentations on the side. It was the time where the iPad came out. We were thinking about multi-device interactions, the first apps on the iPhone. It was a moment where everything felt possible, and it feels very similar to where we are right now with AI, where it feels like there is a new way of solving problems, and you can come up with any idea. This is the type of projects that we were doing back then when I was working in studios. So I studied in Italy, and then I went to London working in these digital production companies. For example, we were working with Google and Honda in making this type of experiences. I should have a video if it plays. We had a client, Honda, they wanted to promote their way of thinking. experience with Chrome that allows users to create chain of reactions, moving the windows around. And so you can choose any objects and combine it with any other object and make your chain reaction. So this is what I was doing in my 20s. And it was a very, very fun time. Again, the creative industry, advertisement, you will be on set shooting, in this case, any possible object that could react with any other possible object. So there was fire on set, and therefore you had to put everything on fire as well. It was super fun. Like, you could experience a lot of very fun things. I had the opportunity to meet, for example, the chicken master. So it was the person on set whose job was to talk with the chicken and tell you what to do, how to act. Anyway, in the meantime, I was also experimenting how to bring the benefits of digital outside of the screen into the digital world. This is an example, was called EELS, was an installation where we will use two projectors to project on a physical installation. And that was a 360 projection. So the question was, how can you take a game, for example, and let's see if I have a better video later. How can you take a game and play it in the physical space? In this case, I think up to 8 people could use their phone to play something like Snake, but on top of a physical installation. So where instead of just using your sight and hearing, you have to use also your other capabilities, such as moving around the space. So these were the first experiments of what then became mixed reality and holographic experience in my career. Other type of experiments I was doing back in the days, combining my passion for electronics, programming, design, interaction design, what was called mind scaletrics. So I basically connected an Arduino, an EEG reader with a toy, a slot car, polysteel in Italiano. And the idea was to help people experience technology in a different way and interact with technology in a different way. In this case, you could use your mind to control a car. The more you concentrate, the quicker the car will go. So it was a provocation. We did this for a number of events, starting small with a little truck. And what happened is that, yeah, the more you concentrate, the quicker the car will go. And if you close your eyes, if you blink, there was a little booster. I ended up building, a very big version of this. We went to South by Southwest to have people compete with each other. So these were early days for me, and we were really experimenting. What is possible? What is at the edge of digital? What are new type of interactions that could be possible? On the commercial side, this led to new opportunities. Instead of just doing websites, we're also doing installation. In this case, a museum installation. This was at the Museum of Science of London, where we developed 8 experiments where you had a physical robot that could be controlled both online and at the museum. In this case, for example, we had an orchestra made of musical instruments. People online and people at the museum could collaborate together. These were a moment where, again, we were trying to explore how digital experiences could be experienced both in the physical and digital world. I do have a short video. So yeah, we had an entire floor of the Museum of Science of London, beautiful place, and we had a number of these installations. And it was quite interesting, like to feel the remote presence, someone that is not there, and interact with them, interacting with something that is not, or someone who is not tangible, but you feel the presence of. I'll go quick. Eventually, after spending a few years in London and Stockholm, I decided to move to Seattle. Microsoft reached out. I was doing a lot of projects and side projects about physical and digital, and they asked me to join a project that was HoloLens. It was not HoloLens at the time, but the incubation of what became Microsoft HoloLens, which was the first headset, that untethered website headset that allow you to see holograms in space. And we developed first a portfolio of consumer experiences that were pretty magical at the time for what was possible. We then moved into enterprise experiences to think about productivity, and eventually develop HoloLens 2 that allows you to, again, interact with others remotely on a number of projects, including, for example, first-line manufacturing or online assistance. I'm going quick because I want to leave time for conversation. Within Microsoft, I opened what was called Foundry, was an internal incubator, to think about new category of devices. So we work on very large screens, we work on foldable devices, we work on, we created a new way of thinking about hardware at Microsoft, working with what is called now the Surface team. Eventually, from San Francisco, I joined a startup called Zoox. I moved from Seattle to San Francisco to work on a robotaxi, so an autonomous vehicle. I was working on the research. I was leading the research, design, prototyping, the creative side, the product, to work on a service, so understanding which cities shall we deploy a service which is completely autonomous, how do you scale, working on the mobile app, all the touch points for you to be able to interact with an autonomous vehicle, the pickup and drop off, which is quite interesting. Once you have this entity, which is not a human, is not an animal, and is there, arrives, how do you communicate with it, how do you interact with that machine? Once you're inside, anything from the comfort to how do you communicate your intent, how do you interact with others. This is a vehicle that doesn't have a steering wheel, is fully autonomous, is designed with autonomy in mind. And for example, the out communication is another aspect I love, which is the social robotic. You have this entity on the road, is going to be used not just by the passenger, it's going to be something that everybody on the road needs to interact with, even if you are another driver or you are a pedestrian. How do you communicate with it? How do you understand the intention? So the social robotic aspect is super interesting, as well as everything that is behind, the operation, the developer tools to be able to build such a service, as well as branding and content. And again, this is not just for the rider, but also for the road users, the first responders, such as firefighters or police, the operators, and our own engineers. It started with something like this, and this is what it's on the road right now in Foster City, in the Bay Area, to shuttle Zoox employees from one office to the other. Today, I'm going fast. Again, I'm working on Gemini. I joined Google 2 years ago. It was Google Assistant. I joined because I saw the opportunity of LLM revolutionizing again how we interact with technology. And we started the team called BART, and from BART, it evolved in Gemini, which is something that now the entire Google is shifting its attention to. I'm not going to talk much about Gemini right now. Instead, I wanted to give you this super brief overview so you know who I am. Hello. And instead, I would like to leave space for us to have a conversation and talk about whatever topic might be most interesting for you, including AI, future of AI, and whatever you think is most interesting.
Thank you very much, Riccardo. And we have actually some questions, us, before the others, to do you. I just wanted to ask you, what's maybe the most exciting part of what you do every day? I mean, what gives you the motivation to work such in an innovative way, innovative things, and to do such a, let me say, great work as you do?
So let's see. I think I'm privileged. I'm very lucky. I work with great people. I work on something that I feel passionate about. At the beginning of my career, I was focusing on the crafting. I was excited about being able to build things, beautiful things, interesting things. So the type of projects I was showing at the beginning. Over time, I desired to work on something that had more of a purpose. I wanted to know I was spending my time on something that I believed in, something that, in my mind, can help improve the human condition, help improve people's lives, push society, and give some progress. So right now, I'm in the lucky position to be able to work with amazing people on something that is personally rewarding, on something that is very influential globally, and I can play my little part. My little part means that Gemini will happen with or without me. It's not that it exists because of me. But I am there and I can nudge it a little bit towards the direction that I think is more desirable as a future. So that is a big motivation. Yeah, I would say that my goal is my ambition is to try to work on projects that help improve people's lives. Then sometimes you convince yourself that you're doing it, sometimes you are doing it, but yeah.
And as a user experience director, what do you think is the future of user experience in the AI sector?
Okay, so this is a huge question. So let's see. Probably it's too big for me to give an answer that it's complete, but I will share some thoughts about it. I am passionate about the evolution of our relationship with technology. We started interacting with simple objects, very predictable objects, and then we started building more complex products that require a society to build, that requires us to understand the state of the object itself, and we evolved these technologies into more complex systems, such as computers, programs, and whatnot. Now we are at the moment where finally we have technology that is human literate, meaning that so far we have to adapt ourselves to technology. We have to fill the gaps between our capabilities and what tools we're able to comprehend. And the way that we will interface ourselves with technology were through buttons, through physical or digital buttons, but this type of interfaces. Now finally, the voice aspect or the language aspect has reached a level where it's pretty impressive. And this was not possible 3 years ago. If you have experience with Google Assistant, it's pretty frustrating in the moment that you say, or Alexa, or Siri, you just need to say, you have to say the exact words. It's like a spell. If you say something slightly different, instead of saying, switch the light on, you say something slightly different, it wouldn't work. Now it's amazing. Like we are at the point where we have the technology that allows us to have very loose input and very variable output. So you can say something that is quite imperfect. You can say something in a way that was not exactly scripted, and you can bring your own context with it, your own knowledge, your own a photo of something that is around you. So opens up completely new ways of interacting. So I think that now we see chat, we see voice. I think this is just the beginning. Generative UI is going to come next, but in general really adds a layer of comprehension where you can express your intent in so many different ways that was not possible before. It doesn't mean that touch will disappear. It doesn't mean that buttons are going to disappear. But now you can have multimodal input and multimodal output in a way that was really unimaginable 3 years ago.
During lunch, you asked us what we think is the main problem of AI today. I'm going to ask you the same question. What do you think about it?
See what you've done there. Let's see. The pace of this technology is evolving. The pace is incredible. Like ChatGPT didn't exist like 2 years ago. Like it's incredible how fast it's moving. And I work in this industry, and still I can't keep up with everything that is happening. The time between research and product is very short. I remember when I was at Microsoft, the idea was it will take 8 years between research and product. Right now it's not 8 years, it's more like 3 months. Like it's incredible. So the problems are also moving very, very fast. I think that there are many problems, if you ask me. Some of them are at the product level, some of them are the policy level and whatnot. And I think that we all know some of these themes. And for example, there is an aspect of copyright, there is an aspect of incentives for developers. There is a cost problem, an energy problem. There are many problems that are around this technology that have a lot of implication and have a lot of thoughts about that. And then there are problems when it comes to the products, such as hallucination and others. If I were to say right now, I think that I hope that we can have, as a society, a healthy conversation about how we want these technologies to work. Because I don't think that this conversation is happening enough, or at least in a very healthy way. We tend to politicize everything. We tend to talk about extremes. Instead, this is a very powerful tool that is going to happen one way or another, because if it's not in the US, it's going to happen in China. And so we need to talk about how do we want to deal with it. There is bias involved. There are many challenges. So it's hard to pick one, to be honest. But I will say the socio-political implication are probably the one that I think is the most important to solve, because technically the pace is incredible, but the progress that we are making in the global conversation is not as fast.
One last question before starting the Q&A. I was thinking about AI and sustainability. What do you think about, for example, right now, supercomputers needs a lot of power, water, and so on. Do you think it is worth it, or is it something that could maybe damage the environment?
It's a great question. So I think right now there is this enthusiasm for AI, and we tend to throw AI at everything, as if it makes everything better. We just throw AI, and we see it with startups. We see with the venture capitalist world, etc. I think about AI or generative AI, so the current wave and revolution of AI, as a new ingredient, a new way of solving problems that did not exist before. So you can look at the problems that we had in front of us and ask ourselves, can this new ingredient help us solve the problem in a more effective way? Now, the other problem is that this solution, this specific ingredient, is very expensive. Right now it's very expensive, both in terms of cost and in terms of cost because of the energy. So I don't think it's sustainable right now. I don't think it is. But at the same time, the cost is going down. Probably before AI becomes a solution that can be as common as cloud. So if you build an app, right now you use an operating system, you use the cloud, and it has a little cost in your overall cost of the application. Right now, AI is insanely expensive. Generative AI is very expensive. So I don't think right now it's sustainable, but over time, the cost will go down. You need new chip. There are many startups that are trying to challenge NVIDIA in providing lower cost, faster inference, like faster processing. And you need a revolution in energy. There is a lot of conversation about nuclear and version 4 of nuclear, etc. So I think something like that will happen. As it is, I don't think that is sustainable. But there are so much investment in this field that I do believe costs will go down. Now, we have seen in the past how this new technology reach a hype and then they go down. Think about VR, think about like even AI. Or voice, for example, as a method of interaction. We already thought we had solved voice interaction with assistant. That was not the case. We saw where the cap was. Something similar might happen here, where we arrive at a certain point and we think about, oh, AI is not the solution to all our problems. But what's interesting is that we have not, the perception is that we have not met the ceiling yet. What seems to be problem impossible to solve, those problems disappear because a PhD student somewhere come up with a solution that totally changes the perspective. So it's quite amazing, the progress. It doesn't mean that the same pace of innovation will happen regarding energy or chips, but I hope we find a way so that we can benefit from what AI can bring.
Thank you.
One last question for me. What's the biggest piece of advice that you could give, for example, to people like me, a 20-year-old student who is studying with technology and wants to work in a field maybe like that?
A few thoughts. One is, because everything is changing, then the question is, what is important to learn? I do think it's important to understand the material that you are dealing with. So you need to have an understanding of what's behind this technology so you can comprehend it, you can master it and whatnot. At the same time, I think that more and more what is going to be important is going to be critical thinking, being able to understand when to apply the why of things, being able to keep in mind that that is just a technology, and the ability to critically understand what is the right product to build before building it right, what is the problem we're solving. Those are going to be very important, as well as understanding human. Anything that has to do with psychology and understanding our behavior, so even the marketing side, I think those are also going to be very important in terms of areas. And then when it comes to career, I was talking before to a class, I would say that I will, as much as possible, focus on personal growth and learning, having a growth mindset, more than aiming for the high salary right away or the big brand or company to work for. I think people, more and more, there is a need for people that know things. And sometimes being a small company or a startup where you're exposed to a variety of things versus being even at Google in a big company where you risk to be exposed to a very limited amount of things, it might be better to have more exposure. Optimize for learning as exposure, I guess that's my advice.
Thank you very much, Riccardo. It was a pleasure. And now, guys, if you have some questions, feel free to do them. We're going to pass you the cube. Does anyone have any?
Hello. I really admire your career path. You had a degree in design and you ended up following your passion with developing and programming. You are a self-taught developer, you said. Do you think some degrees of this college, like digital management, are good degrees to enter this field? Or do you need a degree in that, for example, in computer science to be able to reach your dream like you did?
It's a good question. I don't think that there is only one path, right? Like we all go through different paths. If I look at my colleagues, they all have very unique path that led them to what they're doing right now. And if anything, this might keep on becoming more and more true, where it's going to be important to have different perspectives and unique experiences. The business side, the learning how to think critically about problems, solution, business, etc. I think that is going to be universally important more and more in the future. So there is not going to be just one profession, there are going to be many professions, and the ability to understand how do you improve what's around you, I think is incredible. I apply that through the lens of design, that can be applied through the lens of technology or business as well. Also, things are changing, moving fast when it comes to engineering, for example, especially coding. My perspective on coding is that it has already changed. Like it will change and it has already changed, meaning that if I think about my colleagues right now, they write way fewer lines of code because a lot of those are already suggested. So you need to know what to look for, what to ask, and you need to be able to review and oversee, but your role slightly changes. And I think that will keep on happening for many professions, where it's not going to be human or AI, it's going to be human or AI, human with AI. The human with AI is going to go faster, the same way you're faster with a calculator than without. And then over time, probably there are going to be new professions that are going to be more specialized in inventing new code rather than using existing code. If I think about, let's think about analogies. If you think about photography or graphic design, many people now can take a good photo with Instagram, let's say, or can make a decent graphic with Canva. There are tools that make a certain level of quality accessible. But then there are going to be the people that are good, very good, and can push the boundary of what's possible. But probably many problems are going to be solvable, even when it comes to the world of coding, with mostly existing solutions. Yeah, I don't know if I fully answered your question, but yeah, get some thoughts.
You answered a really good point of my question, but still, do you think that companies that are computer science company need a degree in that field to be accepted, or or not?
Are you saying companies that need to hire engineers if they need a computer science engineer? Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. Yeah. I think absolutely yes. The question is going to be like within, let's say, I don't want to say Google, within a big company, within any company that do software development, probably there are going to be different roles for software developers. Some of them are going to be, even if you think about the projects I work on, I used to interface only with engineers. Now I interface with engineers and researchers, right? And even within the engineers bucket, there are many different types of engineers. Some of them need to know low-level code. Some of them are mostly assembling existing things. So since there are so many computer engineers, I think the companies will probably go for the people with a bachelor, with a degree, and probably the highest levels of degree, but it's not the only path. You know, like, for example, I started as a creative technologist, which is an interesting path where you combine technology and creativity to create prototypes. And there is actually a lot of desire to have creative technologists. We have creative technologists, for example, which are really good coders. They doesn't matter if they have a degree in computer science, doesn't matter as much, but they're really good at bridging the gap between designers and engineers, for example, by creating prototypes, by making mocks, by being able to solve problems that requires you to live in both mindsets.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Can I talk? Really? Okay. So I was wondering if there will ever be the opportunity to develop a video game through the artificial intelligence. And I got a second question about the willingness of organization in sharing data to actually boost the actual artificial intelligence tool.
Awesome. So on the first question, I think in theory the answer is yes. Like, will AI be capable of developing a game? I think yes. Is the game going to be particularly fun or exciting? Probably no at the beginning. Will eventually? Probably yes. It's more a question of when. But I think it's going to be a long transition before that happens, because my take right now is that whenever there is going to be a human intervention, they're going to build on top of what AI suggests, and they're going to make it better. So similarly to probably many people here use it, often AI right now is used to create a draft of something, whether it's some text or code, and then you look at it and you put a little spin on it, like you edit it. It's kind of, you are an editor, if you want. So I think that if you take something completely done by AI or something done by AI with a team of experts, the AI with team of experts is going to be always better. Well, not always is wrong. Like, it's going to be better for a long time, you know. To the second question about willingness of companies to share their data. So I think that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I would say even beyond companies, willing of companies or people to share their information to make the model better. My personal take is that we need to better solve the model of incentives that we give to especially people, but also companies, to participate to building these models. I mean, there is definitely an open discussion about what is the best way to do it, but I think there are also challenges. Like, if you are an artist, if you are a publisher, if you are a writer, like, what do you get out of it? And I think it should be turned into a win-win situation. And the model I have in mind, the way I think about it, that might completely not possible, but the way I think about it in my naiveness is that a model similar to Spotify will be interesting, where there is a subscription of some kind to a model, and if that model use content done by a certain artist, editor, company, is the same as Spotify playing a song from a specific singer. So there is a part of the fee that you pay to Spotify should go to that author. And I hope that eventually there could be something like that, where you feel both proud and rewarded by the fact that you contributed to something that was helpful and to others. This is my super personal take.
Thank you.
Hi. You mentioned some of the limits that AI has today, but I wanted to know about the role of a user experience designer in a big company such as Google, because nowadays I see that a lot of people doesn't even recognize the power of the AI. And for those who can recognize this power, I see some difficulties in being able to use this power, this potential, because sometimes it requires a lot of knowledge in coding. There are some barriers that I think that can be, can be jumped a bit.
Overcome, yeah. You're right. So basically you're saying the tool is very powerful, but sometimes it's hard for people to make the most out of this, either because it's hard to understand or hard to use. I agree. And with that, you're asking, so what is UX doing?
Yes, because I think that you're the right person to ask.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so it's a good question. A few things. One, everything that we see is really new. Like it's pretty new. Like again, we are going from research to product extremely fast. These products have 2 years, and these 2 years they change so much. They're completely different products already in terms of their underlying capabilities. There should be no excuse in making the experience easier to understand, better, etc. I think there is a lot of work that needs to be done there. Some of these challenges are organizational challenges, some of these are mental model challenges and whatnot. An example of a challenge that exists today is that, exists whenever you have voice interaction compared to GUI, graphical user interfaces, is that when you have a graphical user interface, the capabilities of the application are exposed and countable. So you have 5 buttons that express the 5 things that this application can do. Whenever you have voice, you basically you can ask anything, you can type anything, right? So instead of choosing in a menu of 5 things, it's like going to a restaurant. Instead of having a menu of 5 things, you can ask anything, right? And then you need to see if that chef is able to cook everything very well. The reality is that the model is not equally good at everything, is particularly good at certain things, and horrible still at doing some other, right? So one problem in the design world is how to express these capabilities and how to provide an affordance, basically, where affordance means affordance in design, for example, is the red bar in the door. That is a physical object that represents a functionality. It tells you that if you press it, you open the door, right? In the moment that you have voice interfaces, how do you provide an affordance of what you're good at, what's possible? And the analogy that comes to mind is that even in society, we give ourselves a way to understand who is good at what. We give ourselves titles. There is a doctor, there is the engineer, there is the gardener, so that you know that when you talk to that person, this person is an expert at something. We have not done that yet much with AI and these models. And therefore, you find yourself in front of these models, you try to ask anything, but the reality is that you don't know the boundaries of the capabilities. So there is work that needs to be done there. There is other work that needs to be done for developers to make it easy. Some of these companies have done a better job than others, but definitely something that we will see, I believe we'll see a lot of progress very soon. And then there is a shift that is happening very quick in terms of what these devices can do. So think about my parents. All of a sudden, the same device that was not able to speak can speak, like this. So you have 20 years of experience of this thing being dummy, and from one day to the other is capable of doing certain things. I think it will take some time for all of us to get in the mindset that certain things are possible, and we need to learn ourselves what actually works, what doesn't. I think we are the first one that sometimes discover that some things are possible. So I think that we need more people to use it, more people to discover what is actually good at, more people to help us understand what is not good at. But I think that this will be a natural process of the evolution of the product that really is less than 2 years old. Like, it's pretty new.
Thank you so much.
So I have a more provocative question. So you introduced Gemini as the ChatGPT from Google. Why should we as students use Gemini and not ChatGPT?
Look, I'm on paternity leave. I'm not here to sell you Gemini. Use whatever you want. No, okay. So I would say that different models right now have different capabilities, and they keep on evolving. Like there are companies out there that keep on measuring which is better at writing, which one is better at math, which one is better at different fields. And it's amazing, like if you follow closely, it's amazing. The competition and the pace of innovation is pretty amazing. So ultimately, I would say, just go for the one that works best for you. If I were to tell you what Gemini has that is different, is probably I will bet on the integration with the other Google products. For me, is the big one, meaning it's integrated with Google Docs, with Slides, with YouTube, your Gmail, etc. So you can bring that information into the context. So you can ask about your email, or you can use your email or your docs to generate things. And we'll continue on doubling down on that direction so that you can really have answers that are tailored around you. Because what happens if two different people ask the same question, the answer will be exactly the same if you don't bring your personal context. By bringing your personal context, being aware of your calendar, being aware of your email, et cetera, then the answer can be more relevant. I would say that's one, and the other one could be the integration. Well, if you are a Pixel user, there is a pretty amazing integration right now with a new Pixel. But again, I'm not here to promote one another. I will watch closely. They are is a pretty close race overall, but there are definitely some that are right now better than others at different tasks. So I will probably try. The best thing is that you can try. The other thing I will mention, though, is that there is a huge difference right now in how these models perform if you try the free version or the paid version, so the advanced version. Or in the case of GPT, they release, at least in the US, I don't know if it's here yet, the Project Strawberry, which is O1 preview, which include reasoning. There is a big difference, like in quality. So I think probably each of them has some free trial version, at least Gemini has. I will give it a shot to the advanced version and see if there is meaningful difference, because that is, you basically skip at least 6 months ahead of quality, basically.
We finished our time. Thank you very much, guys. And thank you very much also to Riccardo again. A big applause for him.